Hey guys, welcome to our podcast series. And today we have very special guest. Gomez is director of Hype Sports Innovations. Hi Gomez, hope you're doing good.
I'm doing very well, thank you. Welcome, right?
Gomez, just for the audience, if you can introduce yourself and also Hype Sports Innovation. How is Hype Sports Innovation really driving innovation and creating a meaningful impact in the world of sports?
Perfect. So again, hello everyone, and welcome to be here. Super happy. As mentioned, my name is Gomez. I'm the director of startup and venture partnerships at Hype. Our main mission is to act as a global catalyst in sports, connecting iconic sport properties, whether it's Manchester United, major leagues, or global federations, with the most advanced startups shaping the future of sports. At Hype, we close what I call the innovation gap. On one side, you have legacy organizations, which is a massive brands, incredible history, global fan bases. But because of their size, government structures, and risk profile, they can't always innovate at quite the speed that's required. On the other side, you've got the highly agile startups building breakthrough solutions. Again, very nice, but struggling to penetrate these large ecosystems. So we sit in the middle, we translate, align incentives, and de-risk innovation.
Well, that's awesome. That's brilliant. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Gomez. Well,
Pleasure. And I
Gomez,
think,
just
yeah, please.
yeah, just on my introduction. So I'm the head of the data vertical at Nvizion Solutions, and have been fortunate that been in this domain for almost 20 years now, and I've been a big sports fan, sports fanatic, you can say that. And it will be wonderful to speak to you regarding this very interesting topic. We'll discuss how data management, a master data management, can integrate with sports and can create a unified view. So, Gomez, let's start with the podcast. I believe that all our audience is hooked. So, I want to start with a question on one of the most famous athlete, about Cristiano Ronaldo. One of the most successful athletes, tracks over 140 metrics on recovery, nutrition, and performance. Now, players like him are naturally curious and data driven. So, from your experience working closely, with Ronaldo, I want to understand that what does data fragmentation looks like in these organizations, and how does it hold teams back who are managing such great athletes?
Perfect. Thank you very much for that question, Rohit. And I think, the invisible performance killer, which I think is data fragmentation, with the example of, Cristiano Ronaldo, 140 performance metrics. First of all, crazy, tracking to do there. So, and, that's an elite athlete taking ownership on his own data. Right? This is just on an individual level. But inside many clubs and federations, what we see is that level of integration doesn't quite exist at that scale yet. Medical has one system, performance has another, commercial has CRM data, digital has fan data dashboards, but none of them quite truly speak to each other. So, the question really here is, how can you optimize a human asset with millions and millions of pounds if you only ever really see one picture? It's kind of like, solving a 1,000-piece puzzle with about 600,000, the 600, pieces missing there. I think quite a good example for this is regarding a company that one of us works with, which is Moonshot AI, one of our portfolio companies at Hype. So what they've done in the digital commerce world is fascinating. They turn websites into living organisms, constantly adapting, testing, optimizing conversion, in real time. So, the website isn't static. Most of the times websites are static and stuff. It learns, it evolves, it self-corrects. The very important thing is, for example, take a club, that has a merchandising store. They currently earn, let's say, 100, million pounds annually plus. This is, I would say, like the typical ballpark for Premier League, clubs going on there. But what if I told you, okay, fine, you earn 100 million pounds or something like that, but instead you have the potential to be earning 150 million pounds? Then the data becomes, I would say, relative in comparison to how everything else is. Right. So if you really look at, and that's just one example, by the way, in terms of how, the data really ends up in there. Now, if you apply that same logic to a sports organization? What if your athlete behaved like that, right? What if your fan journey adapted in real time? What if the sponsorship performance, and again, it's a very interesting thing to think about. What if the sponsorship performance optimized automatically instead of being reviewed quarterly and everything there? Moonshot AI, for this very specific example, shows us something important, that data shouldn't sit still. And even more, it really does show us that the fragmentation of this is a much more, I would say, intense killer for most clubs and federations, than it is. And if it's not active or if it's underutilized, this is something that could, I would say, really harm us in the long run. I think, a second example, just to really drive that point home, is with another company that we have called We Have. So what they do, they really move on the commercial elements of that. So traditionally, they're really, I would say, like a sponsorship pioneer there. So what they do is, the context rather here is traditionally sponsorship reporting has been fragmented, right? Clubs know impressions, they can tell you impressions. Hey, we did this, we got 10 billion impressions, 1 billion views and everything. They definitely know their stuff. Sponsors also know themselves, right? But the two databases rarely, I would say, connect in a privacy compliant way. So when sponsors ask, and this is a very real life example that I do see us also as we speak to the clubs, the federations, and the executives there. So when they ask, hey, did this partnership actually drive revenue? The clubs mainly respond, oh, hey, we reached 10 billion views, we got this many views and everything like that. But that's a disconnect that we see there as well, because what the sponsor is asking is, hey, I paid you guys 100 million. What's the outcome? The club on the other end is saying, you paid us 100 million, we gave 10 billion views. So already there's a disconnected synergy there, and that's not the same thing. So in this case, again, if we're really touching in the point of, I would say, the impact of data fragmentation in clubs and federations, is that, the end goal here is to enable a secure collaboration, again, in this example, between rights holders and brands, so they can finally measure accurate activation, which fans, are actually able to see, and sponsors on the other end actually have that there. So I think, that's my view in terms of, I would say, data fragmentation. And I think really diving into this point, Rohit, I would like to ask you, how can MDM provide clubs with a true 360-degree view across players and systems to support better decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, data is only as good as the decision that you make. For instance, in cricket, which I do know is a very highly popular sport in here, we have, Jasprit Burma, who is a unique and orthodox, I would say, ball in action that makes him highly effective, right? And of course, you have, Virat Kohli, who is known for his discipline in terms of training routines and innovative techniques. So with that, and, I would say, coming from the cricket world, how can IPO clubs leverage data on players like them to enhance performance and perhaps gain a competitive edge?
Well, great question. And first of all, the thanks for the detailed answer actually you gave. That's a wonderful example to understand that why MDM is so relevant. And yeah, cricket is definitely popular. And of course, Virat Kohli, we all are missing in this ongoing T20 World Cup right now. But yeah, if you talk about, why MDM is relevant in cricket, well, if you talk about, a cricket match or an IPL club, they do have a lot of data. Data is there. I mean, they have match analytics systems. They have wearable GPS and fitness record, physiotherapy and medical records. They do a lot of video analysis of players. Then somebody like Virat Kohli, he has a very unique diet. Famous for his diet. So they have a lot of data around their nutrition and training apps. The scouting databases are there. The contract and auction systems are there. All these systems are working in silos. They are not connected to each other. So what it exactly points to, that you have a duplicate player records. Your player is present in multiple systems. You're not able to have a unified view. Then your decisions are based on partial insights because you don't have the correct insight, right?
Right.
So it's very important that you create a global view of master data management, have a centralized record of all this information. We call it as a player master. So once we create that player master, all the personal details of the player, like the playing role, the history, injury history, their biomechanics, the fitness metrics, the performance KPIs, the psychological assessments, the contract value, auction history, all that data will now be connected to one place. And that amalgamation of all that data will ultimately relate to a better decision making. Let me just pick up an example of the great Virat Kohli. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah. So if you see this, Virat Kohli is definitely one of the most famous athlete. And if we have this kind of strong data around him, look at the data, it's performance data, the bat and ball impact data. There is a certain way that he plays. He has some strong zones, some of the weak zones are there. Then his data related to his nutrition and recovery, data related to his biometrics and fitness data, the environment and match conditions. Sometimes Virat Kohli performs better in certain conditions, and sometimes that performance is not there. Similarly, how he engages his fans when he's entering the stadium, when is the time that fans are more involved. So if you
Right.
have that kind of a data, everything enabled at one place, that can be a very, very powerful insight. I mean, what it can give us? It can give us immediately, some of the insights like that the strike rate improves of
Mhm.
Virat Kohli when his training intensity is reduced to 48 hours before match. Such kind of
Mhm.
insights can only be possible if you are having that kind of data with you. So that becomes a team level strategy. So
Mhm.
similarly, if you also talk about athlete Jasprit
Mhm.
Bumrah, his biomechanics are totally different because he has a very unorthodox action. So it's very important that when you are having data related to Jasprit Bumrah, whether his ball speed trends, the release angle, analytics, his GPS workload, his historical injury patterns, because when a bowler has an unorthodox bowling action, he's prone to
Mhm.
injuries, and which has happened with him recently. We have seen. So it's very
Mhm.
important that if we have that data and if we have everything's connected through a master data management, clubs or teams like Indian cricket team, they can prevent stress fractures, they can prevent injuries,
Mhm.
optimize his rest cycles. So we will exactly know that when we should use Jasprit Bumrah or when we should not. It
Mhm.
can increase his definitely career, and overall in terms of your match fitness, he will be available for the big matches. Let's say now
Mhm.
India is going to play with West Indies and Zimbabwe. It's a
Right.
very, very critical matches for India. So if we have
Yeah.
this data around us, it will really help Indian cricket team to utilize somebody like Jasprit Bumrah better. They would know that whether to take 2 overs from him in crunch overs or whether to ask him to bowl 3 overs. So such kind of data is very, very
Mhm.
important. Gomez,
Mhm.
I believe
Yeah.
that is a very good example I could relate of MDM with cricket. Now over to you, Gomez. My next question is: I have seen that many sports organizations assume that dashboards and analytic tools automatically make them data driven. But why does it often translate into an operational impact?
I'll say, now more than ever, in terms of what this means, and this is something, let's say, I coin called, I would say, like the dashboard fallacy, right? And this is why, organizations buy sophisticated analytics tool, of which, of course, there are many, and like they should, and they declare themselves data driven, right? But I think the main, I would say, loophole here that happens is a dashboard is retrospective, right? It tells you what happened. It doesn't necessarily tell you what to do next. And more importantly, it doesn't necessarily change behavior by itself. So, practically speaking, in this case, right, in terms of coaches and stuff, if the coach doesn't trust the data, it won't influence the team selection. You can give him as many dashboards as you want. You can give him, the best analytics tools and show him all the numbers. If there's simply no relationship between what's being shown and the data there, nothing is going to happen. Similarly, if the commercial director, for example, can validate the source, it won't impact any negotiations. And speaking of the coach, just to really dive deep into one example there, this also, I think, relates to one of our solutions that we have called the, Sonic Bone. Now, what Sonic Bone is, it's a, maturation device, and the focus on youth athlete growth, right? And this is exactly the pool where we get, our next stars, Mbappe, Haaland, and everyone were once gotten from, youth academies and everything like that. So what they do is using ultrasound technology, they track growth spurts. So suddenly a coach knows not to treat, an academy of 20, young kids the same way. He knows, okay, fine, I have 20 kids. 3 kids are at this stage in the growth spurt. So maybe these guys, I need to train them harder. 10 kids are at a different stage in the growth spurt. So maybe for these guys, I need to, let them rest more, give them different exercises, maybe focus on cardio. So
Yeah.
suddenly the coach knows when to push an athlete and when to ease up. Now, this is particularly important because if you really think about this, the the youth and the athletes at that point are at one of the most critical points in their professional football career. I mean, it's like giving a coach a crystal ball, right, and telling them, hey, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And I mean, who doesn't want a crystal ball, right? Rohit, if right now I tell you, hey, here's a crystal ball, you can ask in anything and it 100% certainty will get you this, probably we definitely will like that. So of course the flip side to this is when the data stays siloed, which also I would say goes back to what you are meaning in there. It's a bit like trying to bake a cake, but then all in the other ingredients and separate cardboards. You go in one kitchen, you get the sugar. You go in the other one, you get like flour and everything like that. You never quite get the flavor that you want, and that's why we see the hidden costs for that. So, looking back here with Sonic Bond, by integrating their growth data, it no longer becomes a nice to have for teams, especially when, if you look at the budgets, as we all know here, and again, both in cricket and much more pronounced, I would say, in the Premier League, these guys spend millions and millions of pounds making decisions. These are not small decisions. These are decisions that if you have to buy a player, or if you have to buy new equipment for a training ground, this is something that's going to cost you, right? And
Yeah.
money out is money that you're expecting in from a club's perspective. That's exactly why they're here, right? So by integrating this growth data, it now becomes like a game changer, because without that, the teams are guessing. They're losing millions of pounds in transfer windows, and of course, let's be honest, guessing in elite sports is kind of like driving blindfolded. No matter how good, no matter how skilled you are, if I tell you right now, hey, let's drive blindfolded, most likely we kind of know exactly where we're going to end up if we're going to, see tomorrow. So, I often ask executives, and it's a very important discussion that I always have with them is, listen, does your dashboard, because I get on a call with them, they show me, hey, Gomez, we're doing this and everything, and 100% great, which is something in any case that they should be doing. But I would say a very important element to that is, okay, hey, does your dashboard change decisions, or does it just decorate meetings? And of course, which is one of my recent outside topics that is discussed about in terms of what I call innovation corporate theater, where people have, I would say, slogans for wanting to seem innovative instead of actually being innovative. And there's a very big difference for that. Data maturity isn't only about visualization, because just like any data scientist will tell you, you can torture the data up until you get what you're looking for and not exactly what it really represents. On the same data set, you can manipulate it, and then in the end have whatever is also like beneficial for you. So I would say it's really about the integration, the governance, and I would say like the accountability and the controls that the clubs definitely are going to have in there. And speaking of that, I said a couple of I would say words there. I wanted to ask you, Rohit. MDM can sound technical, right? And if someone hears this, they say, leave me alone. I know exactly what I'm doing. But it can sound technical. So I need to ask, how does this translate into tangible wins for a club? From, I would say, match strategy to fan engagement and perhaps even sponsorship, right? And if you can give a concrete example on that, I'm pretty sure our audience here would love to hear that.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, Gomez. And as you know that that having a tangible win is definitely very very critical. No
Mm,
point in having just technical tools. Well, imagine let's say if our cricket team, Indian cricket team, is playing a World Cup final, and if they don't have a master data management system like that, so they will have application. As I said, they might have a database where they have they can see the fan engagement, they can
mhm,
see
mhm.
how the players are performing, they have the analytics, everything is there. But
Yeah.
if they're not connected to each other, they'll not be able to see the value. So it's very
Mhm,
important that first we have to have an MDM which can create a golden record of the player, golden record of the matches, the fans and
mhm,
sponsor, everything will be connected. Now let's talk about the tangible value. Let's say, I'll give you an example, beautiful example about sponsorship. Let's say we want to have a brand engagement during power play overs. So power play overs
mhm,
are the one which are very very active overs in a T20 match. So that initial first 6 overs of the time, then where players are actually going big bang and they're trying to score maximum runs, and fans are
mhm.
highly
Right.
engaged at that point of time. So if we have a data that how fans are reacting at that time, a fan viewing spikes, plus an app activity heat map is there, and then how the players are striking in power play, what and during that particular match time. If we have that kind of a data, a
Mhm,
sponsor can curate, a contest like a prediction contest, and those
Right.
6 overs, which can be sponsored by a brand. Similarly, we know that a player like a Virat Kohli or a Rohit
Mhm.
Sharma is entering a power play overs. If we trigger a sponsor advertisement at that point of time, it has high chance to give you a tangible outcome, which
Mhm.
means you have a measurable sponsor ROI, you have a higher CPM rates,
Mhm.
you have a
Mhm.
premium sponsor renewals, which are direct tangible wins for any company who's managing
Mhm.
athletes like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, or Jasprit Bumrah. Let me give you
Yeah.
another example, Virat, because Virat is, definitely one of the most famous athlete in the Indian cricket team, and I'm sure people are missing him in the ongoing T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, if we talk about him, that he has, as I told you earlier, that he is a very famous athlete and he has almost close to 300 million followers on Instagram. So you can
All
imagine
right.
the kind of social media, he engrosses. He has a high brand engagement value, and
Mhm.
whenever he does the advertisements, even
Mhm.
when it's a merchandising advertisement or he's talking about any advertisement, that
Mhm.
actually spikes up. So if we
Mhm.
have that data around Virat, plus along with his performance on field, you can when you're doing action of somebody like Virat Kohli, you will be able to leverage him not only an on-field performance but as the off-field performance as well. You would know
Mhm.
how a smarter auction bid it can be for somebody like
Mhm.
Virat Kohli, because he's giving you value not only on field but off field as well. You'll be
Yeah.
able to have such kind of insights that this player is driving almost 28% more merchandise sales in regions like Bangalore or in Delhi, where he plays maximum
Mhm.
matches. Then you will have insights like that he has a higher conversion in chasing situations compared
Right.
to 42% higher than normal league average. So again,
Right.
as a tangible outcome, you have a smarter auction bid. You are avoiding overpaying injury prone talent, and again you are investing in high ROI players. So as I said, so there are some clear wins you can have by having
Mhm.
tools like a master data management. And I've
Mhm.
seen that some of the bigger teams like, or Cricket Australia, they have actually implemented master data management recently. They
Mhm.
have taken it
Mhm.
from Proficiency, and they have been doing excellent. They have the data control, and they are able to manage all their athletes data, plus their nutrition diets data,
Right.
plus the injury records. Everything is there with them, and that's how powerful master data management can be. And I believe that it has a huge scope not only in cricket but even in football, in any other
Mhm. Mhm.
sports. Gomez.
Mhm.
Well, Gomez, talking about that, I want to understand from you. Let's say, if where do you feel that a disconnected system costs clubs the most? Like probably
Mhm.
a loss in innovation, or slower partnerships, or any missed commercial opportunities. I just want you
Yeah.
to share an example with the audience that how data silos can directly affect decision making, Gomez.
The best way I would say to really append this again is something what I call like relative data representation, right? Which is basically, listen, if I tell you, hey, Rohit, I can give you 500% on your company. It's a different message to when I can say, oh, hey, Rohit, you're earning $1 million right now, but you have the potential to, just like my first point, you have the potential to earn 2,000 or 2 million, sorry, or 3 million, and everything like that. I would say in terms of where this really holds teams the most is in terms of what I'd call the hidden tax, that's there, right? And the problem with this is it's not just a technical inefficiency, right? This is very pronounced, and I'll give a very practical example as well. The Premier League right now is ongoing, right? I think you have Arsenal at the very top. They are, I think, around 60, 61 points, something like that. And then you have the second best, which is Manchester City, and I think they're about 56, 57, something like that, right? This is like a very tight line. I know, of course, for everyone doing soccer right now, it's a very tight contest on that. This is a contest that cannot afford even the slightest of margins to slip out. A game won or lost is exactly what means between the championship or not. So it's not just technical inefficiency. It means potentially losing championships due to making decisions that aren't necessarily data friendly or weren't in line with everything on the ground. It's slower partnerships. If you're not able as a club or as a big organization to really prove that you can deliver ROI, sponsors are definitely not going to be knocking on your door, because there's a reason why sponsors go to some clubs and don't go to other clubs. This is exactly why we're here. Also your valuations go down, because also, for anyone familiar with sponsorship models, they do know something called like sponsorship valuations, which is exactly where the big numbers and everything that we say on the shirts of players and everything, go in. And as well, think about this. I recently read something that said, the biggest I would say, determinant of a winning team in a tournament such as the World Cup isn't necessarily the best team. Of course, the best team has been in competitions, many times, but hasn't won. Surprisingly, the biggest, I would say, determining factor is, preventable injuries. It doesn't matter if you have the best team, if Messi or Ronaldo or whoever it is that you support isn't playing on your team, it really just sort of dilutes the whole importance there. So think about that. It's about and sometimes the competitive windows as well that we have there. You need to know, which also again brings me back to, I would say, one of the companies that we work with. They're called Be Healthy AI. They're basically able to tell you, hey, listen, we're able to predict injuries for any player that's playing in like a tournament, everything based on publicly available data, meaning they'll get, the YouTubes, the training loads and everything like that. And in the end, they will tell you, okay, fine, I think Ronaldo is going to be injured by these times of the year. So you need to do A, B, C, D and everything like that. Now think about that. If you have two clubs, right? And you're both, Rohit, let's say you and I are both playing in the Premier League. You go the traditional way where, you do the usual coaching and everything like that. I, with all the data, and because, let's say I, use MDM to my advantage, I know, okay, fine. For the first match, I definitely won't play my star player. For the second and third match, I will. For the fourth match, I will. Who's much more able to get a tactical advantage, right? Obviously, the person who's actually, I would say, really immersed in the data there. And again, coming back to the example that I gave, regarding we have and the sponsorship element there, before unified data collaboration, sponsorship reporting could take weeks. So imagine you're a sponsor and then you're asking, oh, hey, what happened and what is the outcome of this? And then the people take weeks. So, what happens after weeks? Decisions fade and everything like that. This is why I think as a company, we have, our slogan is 3 deals in 90 days. Meaning if you're a company, you sign with us, we make sure that within 90 days, we're able to get you some commercial traction and everything, because we understand that after 90 days, and, assuming you met your respective customer today, people are people at the end of the day. Things wane. People have, different things, guiding their decisions, different risk profiles as well. So, really, I think that's so now, imagine also negotiating renewals without concrete ROI data, right? If you give me $100 and I'm not able to tell you how you use the $100, I have no basis to come back to you and say, hey, Rohit, I'm asking for $200, for example, right? That uncertainty directly reduces the leverage that I have. So I think a bigger question here is how many clubs are really undervaluing themselves simply because their data can prove their impact, simply because the CIO, the COO, maybe even the CEO in most times didn't really have the right support and the right structures to really articulate what their ROI is, right? And on the performance side, for example, the question here really is how many marginal gains are left untouched because simply data sets didn't connect. And you touched on it, right? I think, it's like, okay, fine. You have, one data set here, another data set here, and you're about to make a decision. You can either choose to look at them, individually, or you can sort of, create, I would say, a marriage, I would say, between them and do that. And also, in terms of the leagues that we're talking about, right? How many IPLs have been lost just because the right numbers weren't present there? And of course, in elite
Yeah,
sports, margins define championships, and fragmentation
absolutely.
in this case really does erode those margins. And I think, just really bringing my point home is, in terms of what we do, at Hype, I would say, encapsulating this in, the data is we're orchestrating ecosystems here, right? Innovation only creates impact when it's integrated across departments. And again, we've seen this many, many times over across departments like performance, medical, commercial, because ultimately sports, most people like to look at sports as, different, like, as also like a one and a zero. Actually, sports isn't a one and a zero, and this could be true for many other things in life as well. Sports is ultimately one system. It's one brand. It's one performance engine. So I would say really the real opportunity here isn't even necessarily data on its own, because again, you could be even over prepared with your data. Just like, I mentioned, I think, a couple yesterday to you, Rohit, having data by itself isn't a winning formula. The data needs to be unified, trusted, it needs to be actionable, and the clubs, and I would say even the individuals, just like Ronaldo, coming back to our first point there, everyone, I would say any entity that really figures that out first, really those are the ones that are going to innovate faster, and those are the ones that are going to ultimately win faster. So I think that's how I see data in today's Asian sports.
Absolutely, agree with you completely, Gomez.
Perfect. So I think I think one thing from my end is Rohit, ownership. Speaking about data and everything, it's fine. And sometimes, of course, what does happen is one team has just like we said, one team has data there, the other team has data there. So I would say the next question here that really touches on is everything around ownership and accountability, right? These are elements that are often changing, within the organizations and everything. So I think from your perspective, who should own the master data within an organization? I do know some of the clubs and everything, they either outsource it to, like a third party, or some of them prefer to do it in-house. So I would say, what's your take on that? And how does strong governance turn clean data, I would say, into better performance and perhaps, increase revenue?
Yeah, excellent. I think this is where the most MDM programs, either succeed or fail, because in
Yeah.
sports organizations like whether it's football clubs or IPL franchise or any professional clubs, the master
Yeah.
data ownership is not an
Mm-hmm.
IT decision. It is a
Mm-hmm.
business accountability model. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
if you talk about a player master, if I have to create a player master, that will be the accountability of a head of cricket or a head of
Right.
sports or a head of the football club. For
Mm-hmm.
medical and fitness data, that should be the responsibility of the physio head or a performance director.
Right.
And similarly, if you have a fan engagement data like a customer data, then a chief marketing officer is directly responsible for
Mm-hmm.
the data, because that fan segmentation, the campaigns, the loyalty programs, and the sponsorship activation, that completely depend on that. For that,
Mm-hmm.
marketing has to take the ownership of that data. Similarly, if a
Yeah.
sponsor and commercial data is there, then the commercial head is responsible for that. But ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
all these guys will be reporting into a chief data officer or a chief executive officer
Yeah.
of the who'll make sure that everyone is aligned. So we call it as an executive sponsor. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how that we can define ownership. But as I said, it's a business oriented decision, so more on a business front. And what it
Yeah.
will enable, governed data will enable accurate analytics. It will make sure that you have reliable AI models, because now we are living in the world of artificial intelligence. But you
Mm-hmm.
definitely need to govern AI as well. You'll have then a faster decision. You will see better on-field strategies and high commercial monetization. So these are some of the clear wins you can have with a
Yeah,
proper data
I think
governance.
just to
Yes.
sort of jump in here. I think one point that you touched on that I think I really like. I would say to really put it in a nutshell, with I would say what we call data strategy, right? Which is
Yeah.
surprising. Of course, some clubs have this down to a T. They know exactly what data they want to collect. They know how to collect it. They know where it's stored, and they know exactly what to do with it. And some clubs and federations don't, right? So I think in terms of I would say it's the there are three ways you can categorize an organization, right? If you want to, put it there. There are those, let's say, without any data strategy. There are those, I would say, that I would say are too much into the data strategy, I would say. And then there are those who are, it's like they found the perfect balance of that. And what do I mean by this? There are those, first of all, like the brands that fit into the cluster of A are those ones that, they don't necessarily have a data plan. They, outsource everything. They don't know what kind of first party data that they would like to collect. They don't know how exactly, if they are to collect it, what to do with it. And, these are the ones, of course, needless to say, first of all, do need to get a data strategy in place. And then B, I would say the second class are the ones that they have all the data that they need and some, but don't actually act on it, right? And it might seem counterintuitive because it's like having money in the bank, but either not knowing you have money in the bank or choosing not to spend money in the bank. But it definitely does, happen, more often than people say there. And then I would say cluster C are the ones that have found the right balance. These are the ones that they know exactly what kind of first party data they're collecting. They know what the protocols are when they're implemented as well with, sport tech organizations and everything. They know, exactly how this first party data is collected, what exactly is there and the like, and ultimately these are the ones that we see implementing the innovation that we see there. So I think Ray just sort of to jump in a little bit there on the data strategy element.
No, no, thanks, Simon. That's a great answer, and thanks for putting that. I have a question from one of your fan, and she's asking, from a fan engagement perspective, how does data help predict fan preferences and engagement patterns? And can you give an example of a portfolio startup company in this space and how they're solving it?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the companies that immediately does come to mind, and by the way, it's a very good question from that. I think, one of the, okay, I'll split it in two parts. First of all, in terms of how the data helps define engagement, and secondly, to give a concrete example on how that actually works, right? So I would say one of the, companies, one of the ways data helps, predict that is, look, we all go to sports, matches, of course, like whether you watch it online or, you go in physically, you go. So what happens is, after I buy a ticket and everything, it's a simple purchase, of course. You don't think anything about it. You take a seat and then, that's it. You watch the game, your favorite team won or lost. Okay, fine. And then you sort of, come back. And in line, by the way, with the data strategy, the way the companies that are in cluster C, which is the ones that have like the middle ground of actually doing the data and everything. And so what they do with that data is they say, okay, fine. We have this guy. This guy normally comes to our games. I don't know, maybe every weekend or maybe twice in a month or something like that. Whatever the output of that data is. Okay, we know when his birthday is, for example. Fine. We know that every time he comes in here, he buys Budweiser, for example, right, as a beverage, or whatever people drink these days. So they know all these touch points in the database, and by the way, this is a very important element. If I'm a club and everything, to map out what touch points do I have with my fans to make their fan journey better and everything like that. So in the way that they can do that is, okay, fine. If I'm Manchester City, for example, right, and I know Rohit is a fan, I know he comes, to my games and everything like that. Maybe one day I can surprise him with a free jersey, right? Hey, Rohit, you've been, coming to us consecutively over the past 1 year. We've seen you 20 times here. We know also, by the way, online, we know we're able to identify someone online that, you're an avid watcher. We see your social media. These are the little things that really, first of all, I would say ignite fan loyalty, because, why does it? And I did write about this in one of my previous articles. I said, look, why is it that we as humans, we can be on an app for 5 minutes and then let it go, or we can join a football club from the day we were 6 up until the day we die, right? And an app is literally in your face every day, but a team that for most people don't even physically get to see, but somehow their loyalty spans, like I would say like half the world. That it's these exact same touch points that are personalized for that. And by the way, a very, very important, I would say like a very good example about this touch point is a company called Scene, SEEN. It's one of the companies that work with. So what they do is this, right? If let's say right now you went to, and I think they deal with Chelsea. I think Eden Hazard was one of the guys there. So if let's say you went to Chelsea, right, and you're watching a match, you could either get the I would say the layman experience of you go, you buy a ticket, and you come, everything like that. What they do is they make personalized videos tailored to you. Imagine you go to a game for that, and then you see on your phone, you see Eden Hazard, a video well done. You would never even tell it's nothing. Eden Hazard saying, "Hey Rohit, really great to see you today. For today, our match starts at 5 p.m. We've put something good for you in your seat there. There's a VIP section. There's some drinks and everything like that." Imagine the personal experience that drives, right? Imagine really what's that able to invoke in that. And this is why I would say big companies like Amazon, Google, and everyone, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and they have dedicated
Yeah.
teams that are I would say dedicated to optimizing this exact same thing. And this is, partly, of course, the reason why social media, for the good and bad, is addictive and everything like that. But it's really about these things, and all that isn't possible. Like, imagine if I don't know Rohit is coming to the game, I wouldn't even know to make a video in the first place, right? I wouldn't even know exactly what to do there. So I think to really, I would say, sum it up, I think, data is, incredibly essential, not only in fan engagement, by the way,
Yeah.
in fan experience, I would say the fan journey as a whole. And in terms of, the example and how that is, I think the example we've seen is a perfect example of how that works.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I hope Sheetal got our answer. Thank you so much, Gomez, for the detail. And well, this has been too technical, I would say. And also, let's probably give a breather to our audience. And also, I want to,
Yeah.
put you on a spot, Gomez. So this is a quick rapid fire round. I want to do it with you. Just it's
Ah,
just a fun,
nice.
segment we've kept it.
Okay.
So you don't have to think. You whatever comes in your mind, you have to just say immediately with that. So I'm just shooting the
Sure.
questions, Gomez. I hope you're ready with that.
Pleasure.
All
Shoot.
right. So Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, who is your favorite?
I know some people are gonna hate me for this, but my answer is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, love it. I mean, definitely, fans are divided in that.
Very contentious
Well,
question,
let's
Rohit.
talk about the
You know.
games as such. Let's talk about the game overall. You know that these two sports are worldwide famous. So football or cricket, which is your personal favorite?
Purely because of my geography, I would say football.
Absolutely, I would choose cricket, but yeah, I do love football as well. Well, if you talk about a FIFA World Cup final you have to attend, or a World Cup or a Olympic Games opening ceremony, which one will you pick up?
That's kind of tough. Let's say, assuming they're happening at the same time, and purely because of, I'd say, my curiosity, I think I would choose to attend the Olympic final, just because there's more than one sport I would see at an Olympic final, and like soccer is, it's soccer, like it's a sense sport every time. So given the choice, I definitely would choose an Olympic one, and I think they do a very good, I would say, introduction to you with their arts and how they do it and the like. So yeah, that's how I would say.
Awesome, awesome. That's actually brilliant. I mean, I would also love to attend the Olympic Games opening ceremony. Well, Gomez, next question. Data analytics or a pure instinct in the final 5 minutes of a big game like a World Cup final?
Well, I think if our podcast is anything to go by, it's that you should let's say rarely trust your instinct and really heavily rely on data. Or if you are going to do your instinct, have an instinct based on data. So I think of the two, I definitely would prefer a much more data analytical approach to anything that you do.
No, absolutely. Very smart answer. I mean, that's how we have been discussing about the data. So I guess that will
Exactly.
be a great thing to use data and then go with their instincts as well. Well, watching the game live in the stadium, Gomez, or from the comfort of your home, what will be your preference?
This is the second time I've been asked this question, and I remember the last time I gave an answer, it was very controversial, but I still won't change the answer because I've been both. And I think watching the game on a screen is something I would prefer than the actual live experiences. And before anyone, sort of, rushes me in the comments there or anything like that, I think the main reason why I would say watching the game on like a screen is much more my personal preference is because of the many things that you could do, right? There's many applications and many ways that I'm engaged these days. If it's watching something, whether if that's a prediction play, whether if that's the quizzes that are in there, and it's much more fun and it's much more rewarding, I would say. Both monetarily, I think if you play like a quiz game, by the way. So I would prefer watching it over the screen than physically, unless it's a final. Then a final, nothing beats a final when you're physically there.
No, absolutely, absolutely. See, the comfort of home is always good, but yeah, uh, I mean both experiences are good. If you're watching live, then
Yeah,
you get that
yeah.
engagement from that energy that really drives you. But yeah, I mean, I
I'm
agree with
actually
your
curious,
answer
by the
that
way,
home
Rohit.
is.
Yeah, from your end, I'm actually curious. You asked me Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. I think I'd sort of like to turn the tables on you, and definitely, our cricket fans are here. Jasprit or Virat? Which one would you go?
Virat, all the way. I mean, although Jasprit is definitely good, but Virat has our heart. So definitely, big fan of Virat. But yeah, let's move to the next question. If you have to train with one athlete for a week, Gomez,
Yeah.
who would you choose and why?
This one, surprisingly, first of all, just lead with it's not Cristiano Ronaldo, even though of course love the guy to death. I think he's the one of the greats. The person, the athlete, whether I believe it's living or past. Yeah, that's a poll I have.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I would choose Muhammad Ali. That's the person I would choose purely because I've watched a lot of his videos, a lot of his fights. I think he has incredible mentality. His training is insane. Yeah, Muhammad Ali for 1 week, I think would change my life, I think.
Awesome, awesome. What a great answer. Love Muhammad Ali for sure. Well, a last question: a signed memorabilia collection or a VIP match day experience at the stadium? What will you choose?
This is a trick question. This is because you've basically asked me, what would I choose something that is with me forever, let's say, quote unquote, or would I choose an experience that's in my mind forever? So it's like either it's physical, I have it forever, or maybe it's like an experience that I have forever in my mind. But for this one, I would choose. I think I'll choose experience. The VIP experience is definitely something that would have my heart. I think there's nothing, better than being maybe of old age sometime, and then looking back and thinking, wow, that time when I was in, Old Trafford or Wembley or anything like that, and this happened, it was crazy. So the experience, I think, is what I'll choose between the two. And I think Rohit, happy to hear your answer on this one.
The same. I think the
Same.
VIP match day
Nice.
experience will be very, very awesome.
Yeah.
You get that personalization, and of course
Yeah.
the energy, as I said, that is mind-boggling. That is something I would definitely
Yeah.
prefer rather than a regular collection. Well,
Mhm.
just a question for the audience, and I'm going to throw this question to you as well, Gomez.
Mm.
Guys, if you're hooked up to this podcast, then you have to tell us in the comment section who is the greatest athlete of all time across any sport, active or retired, as per you. So we will definitely look for your answers. But Gomez, I will not let you go before you also answer this question: that who is the greatest athlete of the all time?
Well, fortunately, my answer to this one is simple because it's an answer I gave previously as well. I think Ronaldo is the greatest athlete of all time. It's that plain and simple. Whoever thinks differently, I I am welcome to have you on my LinkedIn to share some thoughts.
No, no, absolutely not. No surprise. The kind of body he's maintaining and the kind of energy he brings at this age is
Exactly.
remarkable. Has to be the number one athlete all time for
Hopefully,
sure.
we get the
Uh,
1,000 goals in the next couple of months. And who knows what's going to happen at the World Cup? Stranger things have happened.
Finger crossed. Let's see. Hope so. That things will be good. But it was a fascinating conversation with you, Gomez. Really loved it, and I believe that audience who was watching us, they also loved the conversation. Love the honesty, the kind of the explanations you gave from your experience. That was really really appreciate the kind of conversation we had, Gomez.
Nah, Rory, thank you very much to you and the Envision team for really having me. I really looking forward to seeing where this goes. And for everyone, who's listening, again, being data ready is only the first element. How you use it, what you choose to do with it, and everything. It's a whole other, I would say, not necessarily science, but let's say it's a whole other project in itself that's needed there. So, I wish you the best. And Rohit, thank you very much for being a very good co-host. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.